Sup brothers, Type-IIx here. So this is the 9th episode of Gear Growth and Gains. It's been over a month since the last episode, so a lot has happened in the meantime. So Phytomics, they went through a rough patch for a while there. The rumor was that they were sending samples, labs that were for sensitive and ultra-sensitive biomarkers out of state. So they are definitely back now. They're taking like 4 or 5 days for guys for those tests. So that's good. Bolus pre-orders are going on now. You can pre-order Bolus. One thing that I am doing for people who actually want signed copies is I'm throwing in a 2X keychain. It's like an ampule bottle. It's kind of sick. It's kind of cool. So I'll throw those in there, but I actually don't love doing those because I'm going to have to get them shipped. It's going to take longer to get to you guys if you do that. I have to get them shipped to me because I don't warehouse the books and then mail them back out to you. But I'll throw in that keychain and sign it for you if that's what you want. Otherwise, they will get to you quicker and go directly to you from the print company. All right, other news, I am now offering new services. I am doing meetings, short-term consults for blood work analyses, general matters like questions, solutions. So if you need anything like that or training program design review, let me know. I'll tell you how to do it. You can do it on the website, on WhatsApp. I have a catalog. I'll share the link to that too. All right, so today we will discuss 3 topics. So the first topic will be why I believe steroid binding site of the enzyme, and DHB1 testosterone is more estrogen-like A-ring and large hydrophobic 5-alpha androstenedione backbone match these requirements perfectly, making it one C19 androgen that theoretically would be quite a good inhibitor of 17-beta HSD1. And therefore have these effects: increase estrone, increase E1, decrease E2, and increase DHT. All right, so let's talk about section number 2, Coach's Corner. All right, so in this section, I want to talk about a few of these different soft tissue mobilization practices. First, let's talk about ART, active release techniques. ART is, among all of these modalities, really the most beneficial for injury prevention. It's better than myofascial release, sports massage, foam rolling. The way ART works, what ART basically is, it's a technique that usually chiropractors, you go into like a chiropractor's office, they'll do ART if they have the certifications for it. And it's essentially, it's like they pull the muscle, right, and stretch it under force. So it's like they're shortening the muscle while lengthening it. Like for example, if they were stretching the rotator cuff, like they would, for example, press really hard in under your armpit and like stretch your like arm back. And it's pretty uncomfortable, but it's really effective. It's great. You'll feel like a totally different person after doing this. I believe far too many bodybuilders have very tight rotator cuffs. I think far too many bodybuilders are injured all of the time in the rotator cuff from benching and not taking care of the rotator cuff. ART is a great modality for this, to stay on top of your flexibility. However, you do have to plan your training around it. So you will feel so different afterwards that you'll be weaker. The muscle, you'll be way more flexible. You won't have the same force output. So basically, you've got to do this stuff away from training, like for example, the muscle to be worked. So that's ART. Very efficacious. I'm very bullish on it. Then number 2, let's talk about how about Graston techniques. So Graston techniques are interesting, but I am very much bearish on their use in bodybuilding just because I think it's too extreme. Graston techniques can do a lot of actual damage to the muscle tissue and surrounding tissues. If you've ever seen Graston techniques, it looks like they're using a torture device often. They have crazy instruments that they use. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't fantastic practitioners. What I am just saying is that it's a risky procedure to have done. You really have to trust the person. I think it could be outstanding when done well. However, I don't know that it is worth the invasiveness. I would just rather do ART, personally. So I'm not very bullish on Graston techniques. Body tempering, on the other hand, is very interesting. So body tempering basically involves these steel cylinders where they roll them up along the muscle to be stretched, or hold them in place, basically. And of all of the recovery modalities, body tempering is the one that actually increases performance acutely. Unlike ART even, that is going to decrease your strength, body tempering increases like power. It increases broad jump and jump power acutely. They have very interesting mechanisms that are proposed for how they work. Basically, reducing load on Cinderella fibers. Really, it's amazing how this works. This stuff it was invented in 2014 by Donnie Thompson and has since been used by a ton of NFL teams to great effect. So I am a very big fan of body tempering. Okay, Voodoo Floss, on the other hand, is something that the research just basically shows that it is nonsense. It's no different from placebo in any of these trials that aren't insanely biased. So Voodoo Floss is something that I would basically discard, along with, in my opinion, cupping therapy. Cupping therapy is something that does have evidence of efficacy, but it's for weird stuff. It's not really for like training for bodybuilding. It's more for like, they think that it's good for like your health. I'm gonna rub people the wrong way because it's really important and it's really big in Eastern culture in Asia. Cupping, they believe in it. But my opinion is that, having done it as well, it is just like, it just causes a lot of bruising. It like does damage to the capillaries, and I just don't think it did anything of benefit. I don't think it can do anything of benefit for muscle tissue. Basically, it just really gives you a horrible bruise and makes you walk around with these hilarious looking cupping marks on you. Yeah, so, all right, on the other hand, sauna. Okay, sauna, I'm not going to talk too deeply about it because I've already made a video on YouTube about sauna, but sauna is outstanding. It basically works on endorphins and cortisol. You have to adapt to it. It's adaptation to thermal stress, but once you are adapted, it has great effects on the adrenocorticotropic hormonal system. It increases beta endorphin and adrenocorticotropic hormone. It decreases cortisol, but initially when you start doing sauna, if you haven't adapted to it, it increases cortisol. So sauna is something, though, that has been used for centuries in Eastern culture, more like in Russia and Finland. On my YouTube video, I get into two protocols, what must have been the Soviet weightlifting program. They called the Russian national junior teams protocol, but it was in the 80s, so it had to have been the Soviet Union, the year that it was. Yeah, so basically that's it. I just wanted to review those briefly. I think that a lot of those are something that are not taken seriously enough by bodybuilders who are engaging in hard training, serious training programs. I think that you need to be staying on top of your soft tissue flexibility and taking care of yourself in that regard, not just taking drugs. Okay. Finally, I want to talk about RhGH and how it causes skeletal muscle hyperplasia. So, skeletal muscle hyperplasia is another historically controversial topic. The question has not merely been whether GH causes it, but whether it occurs in humans at all. In 1993, Antonio and Gagne proposed a theory by which skeletal muscle hyperplasia might occur by longitudinal splitting of muscle fibers in humans, where there is no longer a pool of myofibers to draw from. So when you're talking about really muscular people, basically you have to max out your pool of muscle. And then possibly they believe, under this model, that fibers can split to create a new muscle fiber. In the decades since, evidence has accrued that show that anabolic agents go hand in hand with hyperplasia. It's routine, commonplace, including even clenbuterol. RhGH by AKT overexpression and via IGF-1 absolutely causes hyperplasia. I want to discuss the processes of hyperplasia, how it works. So there's myogenesis in adults is muscle regeneration. That's what's implicated when muscle fibers are severely damaged and become necrotic. Muscle regeneration involves the removal of the original muscle fiber and the growth of a new fiber inside the old cell membrane. This process can actually fail, leading to muscle loss or fibrosis, which is basically collagen deposition inside the muscle fiber, inside the muscle cell. So, like extracellular proteins, collagens, fibronectin can be deposited into the regenerating fiber, leading to reduced strength and the generation of scar tissue in the face of low vascularization. Muscle remodeling is also referred to as hypertrophy, muscle hypertrophy. And muscle remodeling hypertrophy is just the addition of myotubes or adding of sarcomeres in parallel to grow an existing fiber within the cytoskeleton or the surrounding extracellular matrix without necrosis, to wit, myonuclear addition. Intermediate to these processes is muscle repair. So muscle repair occurs from acute muscle damage that is not necessarily significant if you're a bodybuilder in your training. You don't need to even deal with muscle damage or repair in your training. Where it becomes prominent is if you are doing, forced reps, overloaded eccentrics, like say, you can lower like 35% more than you can raise in a lift. If you're doing overloaded eccentrics, like you're slapping on that extra 35% and having someone lift it, in the bench press, say, you unrack it, and after benching like 225, you can't possibly do 275, but someone throws it on there and helps you. You can lower that and get great muscle damage, right? But that's not necessarily something that you need, because that's not what causes hypertrophy. That is muscle damage. Muscle repair is what's stimulated by muscle damage. So muscle repair occurs from acute muscle damage. These processes involve inflammation, removal of damaged tissue, and the regeneration of new muscle fibers. It's driven by satellite cell fusion, where satellite cells are activated to differentiate and fuse with existing muscle fibers to replace the damaged tissue. Muscle repair aims to restore the integrity of damaged muscle, but not totally necrotic, dead muscle replaced by scar tissue. Practically, muscle repair and remodeling overlap with myogenesis, and these are what we call hypertrophy and regeneration. When we engage in intensive, progressive, high-intensity, concurrent training, so that's like combining resistance training and aerobic endurance training, especially high-intensity interval training with impacts, okay, that impact of jumping, for example, or running, particularly with eccentric muscle action, where the muscle lengthens under load, and impacts, like I said. So satellite cells also display fusion-independent roles in muscle size increases through their secretory functions. All right, there basically are other ways that satellite cells communicate with muscle fibers to achieve muscle growth without fusion processes. Now, the anabolic effect of IGF-1 and GH in skeletal muscle is due to a process of satellite cell activation and fusion, a unity of two separate processes that increase the ability for self-renewal as well as recruitment of non-satellite cells. Therefore, GH via IGF-1 dual effector action induces satellite cell fusion dependent processes that can create new muscle fibers. And this is what we call hyperplasia. So I discussed this in the theoretical section of bolus. It's not something everyone's going to be the most interested in, and it would help to have all the graphics in the book for this conversation. But yeah, I wanted to discuss that because it's always a controversial topic, hyperplasia, but it absolutely occurs regularly for us. All right, guys, so that's it. So I just want to remind you, bolus is, pre-orders are live. Monday it will be shipping for sale, so keep an eye out for it. I will let you guys know. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, guys.